Today, I want to talk about the question, who are your notes for? For many people, that might seem like a silly question, and one with an obvious answer. You're taking notes for yourself to learn whatever it is you're learning, to do well on a test, to acquire a new skill. But for those of us who are interested in visual note-taking, taking sketch notes, like what I'm doing right here, it can get a little more complicated because you might come across people like me who maybe encourage you to share your notes, share your sketch notes, share what you're learning, and use this visual form as a way to connect with other people who are interested in what you're interested in. So because of that, what once was maybe a pretty simple question of who are your notes for, it gets more complicated. And that's what I want to explore today with your experience as a visual note taker at the center of a little diagram here that I hope is helpful in kind of describing the landscape for you. And hopefully getting at not just who your sketch notes are for, but why you're taking them in the first place and the role that they might serve in your life. So there's kind of a two-dimensional axis that I want to bring into this conversation here. For the vertical axis, this one is going to describe the internal experience. So your specific experience as an individual, kind of in this self-contained mode. We've also got a horizontal axis. This is a horizontal axis. These are two axes. I don't know if you also have trouble saying those words, but I sure do. On the horizontal side, this is going to be the external. So this is where other people come into the picture, literally or figuratively. So to start with the internal situation here, the places where you're most likely taking notes are, if you're in school or any sort of formal education setting, you're probably taking notes from lectures when you go to class. But I also think that a lot of the people that follow along with this work here, that get into sketchnoting, it's not for school anymore. It's either for your work because you want to improve whatever it is you do, or it's just for your personal life. There are topics that you're interested in, maybe certain abilities or capacities that you want to develop in yourself. And in this case, the type of information you take in is often kind of self-directed. You get to decide what media it is that you consume. You're not just pulling from a core syllabus. You're subscribing to certain YouTube channels. Maybe you are listening to particular podcasts, and probably reading books, maybe physical books, maybe on your tablet, maybe listening to a book. So these are kind of the types of media that you might be consuming, the types of things that you might want to take notes on. So this is one way that kind of information might enter your system, and maybe you're using visual notes as a way to process that information. So this is kind of a, from others, moving down, kind of like from this this external source. You're taking in the ideas of others. You're processing them, trying to remember them and apply them to your life. A lot of people, you might think that's the only category of visual note taking that you might be involved in. I think a neglected area is this section that I'm going to bring from the bottom up, where it's actually your own ideas, your own thoughts. I think we maybe neglect or underestimate what we each individually might be able to bring into our awareness or our work, and to discount your own ideas. So understanding that the thoughts that you have about any given topic, the feelings that you have about a particular topic, these can come into they can be one of the things that you sketchnote, that you process visually. Particularly, I think those moments when you're going about life and a particular insight comes up about how you work, about what you want your family life to look like, things that originate from you that didn't come from an outside source, but is still something that you want to remember and apply to your life. That's kind of the recurring theme here with sketchnoting. Things that you want to remember and apply. That's where the visual part becomes so helpful, because visuals are sticky. You remember them better, and even the process that it takes to come up with some sort of a visual, that's an active way of working with ideas, as opposed to the kind of more passive, just hoping you'll remember it, or even just writing a quick text note down somewhere. I think those are more likely to just kind of float away. So this section here is from you moving up. So that's kind of the what I think about in terms of the kind of vertical axis here. Not even yet considering how what you're doing impacts other people. Let's next bring in those other people. And again, I'm going to have kind of two different groups of people on either side here. On this side over here, let's pretend that this is our kind of ground line here. I want to start with the people that you're most close to. So this left side is going to be for family and friends. I'm married. I have 2 young sons. That's who those folks are right there. But then also to consider are the people that you interact with. Some of these folks might be friends as well, but more broadly, I want you to think about your colleagues, the people that you work with. And it's kind of worth considering, I think, okay, what is this learning that you're doing, this processing that you're doing, how does this impact these other people? And I think it can look a lot of different ways. One way I think that there can be an interaction here is with the books that you're reading, the things that you're listening to. While sometimes that's stuff that you just want to know about, in a lot of cases, I think what you might be learning about has a direct impact on how you relate to other people. And it's your family and friends that you spend the most time around, potentially colleagues as well. So there's a little bit of like a feedback loop in this direction, where the sketchnoting that you do, the visual processing that you do, can impact your actions with the people that you spend the most time with. That's true. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the colleague side of this as well. That might look and feel differently probably different type of work that maybe is impacting each of these places. But one of the books that I'm reading, I finished reading, but I'm still in the process of working on the visuals, is this great book. Thanks for the feedback. The Science and Art of Receiving Feedback Well. Not giving feedback, receiving feedback well. And it's crazy how much of life is feedback, how much of any conversation or interaction involves you processing some sort of direct or indirect feedback that you get from other people. So that's a type of book that this is going to have some implications in kind of your interactions with everyone. That's going to impact how you interact with family and friends and also colleagues. In some cases in similar ways, in some cases in different ways. So this is one of those books that kind of might apply to just about any situation. Another one that I'm in the middle of reading is a parenting book. So here, of course, I'm kind of focusing on this side of this spectrum to learn some new things and potentially some new approaches to how we parent our kids. And this is a place too where, in addition to potentially your visual notes kind of informing your actions in this direction, with this one in particular, I'm going to want to have conversations with my wife about these ideas. She's also reading this book. So visual notes can become, let's go this way, an avenue for, let's just call it conversation. So this is where the question of who are your notes for, sometimes it might be primarily for you. Other times you might be intentionally creating something to serve as an anchor to a conversation. The example that I gave can be true of the kind of family and friend life, but I'm sure you can imagine the same thing showing up at work. Whether it's something that you learned that you want to share with your colleagues, or potentially you are documenting the conversations themselves in some sort of a visual way. I think that's a great way to both practice your sketchnoting skills and have deeper conversations by being willing to pick up a marker and some poster paper or maybe a whiteboard on the wall and be the person documenting the things that are coming up, the questions that folks are having, the potential answers to those questions, mapping out whatever topic it is that you're exploring. So what we have here, and actually one example that I wanted to give of this type of capturing of a conversation in a public setting relates to a new project that I just started with my friend Eric, a person who he hosts the Listen to Sleep podcast, a very successful podcast. He reached out to me to have an interview kind of about what I do and how I came to this work. And we enjoyed that conversation so much that we decided to start a show ourselves where we have conversations each week about doing creative work online and building online businesses. And what we decided to do, we record these weekly chats that we have, and I have my iPad up, Concepts app pulled up while I'm sketchnoting that conversation. We just decided to record all that and release it as a podcast and also a YouTube series. So I will link to that channel if you want to see what really rough live sketchnoting might look like and see what it looks like in that setting where you're having conversations with others kind of with a particular purpose in mind. There's some sort of a common mission maybe that you're on with other people. In the case of Eric and I, it's building a kind of online creative business that we both enjoy as the creators and is sustainable in terms of all the financials of it. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. that's one example of what this can look like. I'm sure you can imagine bringing these ideas to family and friends. But part of the reason I wanted to address this question of who are your sketch notes for is they don't have to be for other people at all. They can just be for you. One of the biggest traps that I think people who get into visual note taking can fall into is thinking that your notes have to look pretty, that they have to be understandable by other people. If you take this out of just this conversation piece out of this equation here, even if your super rough, messy sketch notes, the things that you capture from the ideas of others, the insights that you have about yourself, even if you never share those with other people, they're still going to have this positive impact on others through the way that those notes inform your actions. So I want you to keep that in mind as a little bit of something that can take the pressure off of this visual note taking thing because of how easy it is to judge yourself for what they look like. I'll also point out that I didn't just come up with this out of thin air right when I hit record. I kind of drafted this a little bit. I've got little index cards in front of me to reference while I sketch this out. Most of my sketch notes that are for myself, they're super rough. They're super messy. They're usually more words than there are drawings. But even in those cases, no matter what it looks like, they're always helping me to learn something interesting and valuable from other people or capturing some of my own ideas. So know that your notes can just be for you. But if you choose to share your notes with others and use them as a reference for conversations, that is a role. That's a thing that you can do with your sketchnoting skills. So that's part of the reason that I find it to be so powerful is that it can play that role, but it doesn't have to. You get to choose kind of where in this overall landscape, you get to choose where to live, and that can change day to day, month to month, year to year. Maybe at the start, you just want to kind of move up and down on this internal perspective here. And maybe you think that that's where you want to stay, but then who knows, 2 years from now, something comes up, you're having a conversation, there happens to be paper and a marker, and you decide to, here, let me sketch out what I'm hearing and let me see if that resonates with what you're saying. So maybe be open to that, but also don't be afraid to just keep it to yourself, because again, that can still inform how you interact with other people. Would love to hear what you think of these ideas. If you have any additions or expansions, refinement of what I've shared today, I would love to hear it. If you want to see the conversation that I have with Eric each week, go to, we got a YouTube channel. I'll send you there first because that's the place where you'll get to see the sketchnoting going on. That show is called Learn in Public with Doug and Eric. If you want to go deeper into developing your sketchnoting skills, go check out all of the resources available at Verbal to Visual. In addition to this YouTube channel here, we have a membership site with a bunch of complete at your own pace online courses to build up your skills from the ground up, no matter how much or how little experience you have. We also, I host weekly live workshops there so that we can have chats with each other on different aspects of doing this. You can learn from me if I'm able to be helpful, but you'll also be learning from other folks that join that call who have different perspectives, work in different fields, have different family lives, read and listen to different things, and have different insights. It's a great place to share not only the interesting ideas that we're all and each learning about in our respective fields, but kind of common best practices as it comes to sketching out ideas, which is a pretty cool field to be involved in. So I feel lucky to be able to hang out with those folks. You can learn more and sign up at verbaltovisual.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. I was so close to doing that all in one take. There was one more thing I wanted to mention related to Learn in Public. Of course, do go check out that YouTube channel. Follow along if you enjoy the things that Eric and I talk about, and just to see what rough live sketch notes look like. I also wanted to mention that in the months of November and December 2022, I'm going to do a live run-through of the course I created a handful of years back called Learn in Public. So if this is a piece that you want to do some workshopping around and develop some strategies and approaches to maybe using sketchnoting as a tool to share what you're up to on social media, on a blog, in person with other people, Learn in Public is all about helping you develop a strategy for sharing your skill development, your knowledge development with other people. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about inside of Verbal to Visual in November and December. Check it out if you're interested. Bye.